Welcome to our continuing series of Virtual Voices, focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today is March 8th, and it's the UN Women's Day, and we are very pleased and honored to have Ms. Gina Diez Barroso as our speaker. She is an entrepreneur and a philanthropist with more than 30 years of experience committed to the development of design and innovation projects. She is the founder and president of Dahlia Empower, a lifelong learning global project dedicated to support the advancement of women in reaching their personal and professional goals. She is also the founder of Grupo Diarq, a leading design, architecture, and real estate development companies with offices in Mexico and United States. And Central University in Mexico focus on creative studies with emphasis on business and entrepreneurship, which has more than 3,000 students. With a strong commitment to philanthropy, she started the Diarq Foundation in 1992 to eradicate domestic violence. In 2002, the Pro Educación CENTRO Foundation grants merit-based scholarships to students, and the Tatis Foundation provides opportunities for people with disabilities. Ms. Diez Barroso is an active independent board member of Santander Global and the Mexican Stock Exchange, and an advisor to numerous international and national organizations, including To Empower, which reports to the G20, and representative of Mexico at W20, the Women Initiative of the G20. She has been the recipient of various national and international awards, including the Gold Medal awarded by the American Society Council of the Americas in 2019. Over to you, Ms. Gina Diez Barroso.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I think we're going to have a little 1-minute video, and then we'll start with our presentation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Gina Diez Barroso is the only Mexican woman belonging to the C200 organization of 200 women leaders in the world. In addition to achieving a successful career as an entrepreneur, Gina Diez Barroso has stood out for her altruistic work. In 1995, she created the Diarq Foundation to provide comprehensive support to women and children victims of violence, where they also focus on the prevention and fight against bullying. In 2004, Gina Diez Barroso founded CENTRO University in Mexico City. And a year later, she created her Pro Education Foundation in charge of granting university scholarships. To date, CENTRO has more than 3,000 students, 7 bachelor degrees, 16 graduate programs, and 100 professional training programs for the creative industry. CENTRO is the first top-level campus to achieve the LEED Platinum certification in the world. In 2017, Gina Diez Barroso founded Dahlia Empower, a unique and avant-garde development center that seeks to accompany and nurture the leadership of women who are transforming the world from the corporate standpoint, public policy, and entrepreneurship. Dahlia provides a space conducive to dialogue, exchange advice, and teaching, seeking to form a network of change agents to promote balance, inclusion, equality, and shared growth. In Gina Diez Barroso's words, men and women must be allies and work together. Only then the economy will be measured by a 100% instead of a sole 50%.
Thank you so much, Mariam. When Mariam called me to speak today, I said, what should I speak about? And she said, just speak about yourself. And I know that if I speak about myself for 40 minutes, you will be sleeping. So I'm not going to only speak about myself. I'm going to speak a little bit of what I do and what I believe in. And I also going to tell you a little bit about what has helped me to reach my goal and about my life story and what in the beginning, when I was very young, thinking it was a negative label that I grew with, that became my most positive label that I now have in me. So we start with my presentation. When I was very young, my mother always labeled me as a problem child that never took no for an answer. And at that time, I always thought it was a negative thing. And now, after looking back at my life, I'm sure that was a very positive thing, because that's the only way I achieved what I have done. Don't take no for an answer. I mean, always look for who can help you achieve whatever you want to achieve and do whatever you want to do. So honestly, I think that took me to wherever I am now. So we start now with the presentation. And when I was, that's me when I was very, very young. And I was number 4 of 5 children, very close to my father, extremely, close. And he was my hero. He was my role model. Not so close with my mother. And at my older age now, I know that I wasn't close to my mother because I was very similar to my mother. But at that time, my father was somebody that I really, really look up to. And we talked about my future and how he was going to help me. And he always told me that I could do anything I wanted. And when I was 11 years old, he took a flight to a 30-minute flight for an NBC convention. He worked in telecommunications. And when I came back from school, the last words he gave me was, see you Sunday. It was a Friday. See you Sunday, and we'll continue to talk about your plans and what we can do together. I came back from the school that Friday to know that the plane has crashed and my father had died. So at that time, the word resilience wasn't in my vocabulary as it is now. I just knew that I had to just get my life together and do what he expected me to do in life. So I think that was my turning point. And that was when I decided that I had to do something. And I had to do something for me, for him, and for the world. So that's how I started my career. Next. My first business, or my first work, not business, my first job was in the editorial division of Televisa. At that time, I was working for a company, for a big company, with a lot of magazines going in and out. We had about 20 publications. And I was always worried about how the publications were talking to the 30 to 40 to 50-year-old women or men. And nobody was talking to the very young population, maybe 12 to 15 years old, 10 to 15, 16 years old. And I was very confused because I said, this is the most vulnerable population. And this is the women, the girls that need help. And I went to my boss and I said, why don't we do a publication that talks to these women? And he said, forget it. They don't buy magazines. They're 12, 13 years old. Nobody's going to buy anything. You have to understand that this is like, probably 35 to 40 years ago. So, I said, okay, not now, but I'm going to, again, don't take no for an answer. A week later, I went back. A week later, I went back. Finally, he said, okay, go ahead with your publication, thinking that maybe in a year it will go bankrupt. So what happened? I created this magazine that you see now on the screen. And up to now is the most successful magazine in the editorial division of Televisa. And when it was 30 years anniversary, they invited me to receive an honor because I created the magazine. And when I went to receive it, my husband said, how many people do you think is going to be there? And I said, probably, I think maybe 200. I arrived to this place and there were like 8,000 people yelling with influencers, with YouTubers, with everybody. And so many girls, and the president of Televisa said, Gina, that they still collect this thing. The printed magazines now, they're completely out of market, but we have to still print this magazine because the 10-year-old little girls collect this magazine. So to me, it was a very interesting thing that I did. But when I was 26 years old, I decided to leave the company because this Televisa was founded by my grandfather. And I said, I don't want to work for my family. Not that it had anything bad. I just wanted to do something of my own. So at 26, I decided to leave this company and to start my own thing. At that time, I'm a designer by training. And at that time I said, I want to do something that is, makes less complicated the life of somebody that wants to either build the house, do anything related to real estate. Because I was thinking that at that time, if you want to build a house or build a building or do whatever you want to do in real estate, you needed to deal with 4 companies. First, to buy land, then to get an architect, then to get a construction person, and then if you want to, interior designer. And I said, what happens if I do everything under one roof? So I decided to go ahead and start my first startup. Next, I created a company called Diarq, which is design and architecture firm. And I hired, at that time we were 4 people, and I hired literally a few designers, like 2 designers and 1 architect, and we started this business. And we grew a lot. We grew up to 400 people. We did houses, we did interiors, we did model homes, and it became a very important company. It became a very, very important company. And when I was literally like 42 years old, I said, what legacy am I leaving? What is the legacy that I'm leaving behind? And, I said, I'm happy. I'm very happy with what I have accomplished. But honestly, I'm not leaving anything behind. And the more I thought, the more I said, I should leave something in education. To me, education is everything. Because if you provide education, you provide everything to a person. So I said, I'm going to leave my money, the money that I have made, and the time that I have left in education. So this that you're seeing now, it's part of what we have done in Diarq. And I said, I'm going to start now looking for somebody else to do. And the more I saw in education, and I'm talking about, I saw everything everywhere. And I said, the more I saw, the less I wanted to give. And I said, what do I give in education? And I was frustrated because I was looking at the way people were teaching. And I was looking in the United States, in Mexico, in Europe, in South America, and they were all dividing the brains. They were dividing the left and the right side of the brain. If you were a creative person, they were, let's say that you want to go into a creative university, you were the right side of the brain, and you go to the best university in the world. And then you see, you were trained in the best university in the world. And obviously, you were trained in an amazing place, but you have no idea on how to do a business. Or the opposite, you were the left side of the brain. And then you go into the best place in the world. Let's say you go to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT, and you're trained in the left side of the brain. You are a business person, analytic, engineering, and you're an amazing person on the left side of the brain. And then what happens? COVID hits. And COVID hits, and all of a sudden you have to change 180 degrees your business. And you have to do a creative thinking methodology. You have to do a completely innovation way of changing your company, and you have no clue on how to make it. So I said, why don't universities do both sides of the brain? Go to the, obviously you have one stronger side of the brain, but don't put on the drawer the left side of the brain or the right side of the brain. So I said, the only way we can do this is if I literally create my own university and do both sides of the brain. And that is when I was 42, I went to see my mentor and I said, I am going to definitely create a university. And I told, my mentor was, I've always had one mentor, and he was the former Secretary of Finance of Mexico. And he was also one of the founders of an amazing company in the United States. He was a very respected person. And I said, I definitely want to make a university. At that time, I was already a member of this organization called C200. C200 is an organization of women that helped me a lot in, organizing my thoughts. This is an organization that is basically networking, helping women with women. And this is an organization that honestly, to me has been a very important way of networking women. So when I went to speak with my mentor, I said, I want to start a university. And he said, nobody starts a university. I mean, what are you talking about? And I said, please give me only one advice. And he said, okay, the only advice I can give you is coming from a real estate world. If you're going to spend $1, $10, 1 million, 2 million, whatever money you want to put into this thing, don't start with a real estate building. Start with an amazing education program. And then, even if you start, as they say in Silicon Valley, in the garage, you will move eventually to an amazing campus. But don't start with a campus, start with an education program. And that was the first thing we did. It took me 5 years in research and development to create an amazing education program that trained both sides of the brain. And another thing that we did when we created the university was, I went to speak with 15, in my opinion, best universities in the world. And what I did, I said, I want to speak with the president of these universities. And I want to talk to just 5 minutes to the president and ask him or her, what would you do if you had the chance to change something of your university? And the only thing 90% of them said is get rid of bureaucracy. Why? Because bureaucracy kills innovation. And to me, innovation is the word that you have to literally, innovation now, people that don't innovate die, especially now. So when I did my university, the name is CENTRO University, I said, finally, we're able to move this presentation. Sorry for the technology failing. So I said, the minute we create innovation, we're going to make things happen. So one of the things that we did, first of all, we said, CENTRO will grow absolutely as an innovating university. Second, we will have only professors that work in the field. We will not have tenured professors. If they're teaching you entrepreneurship, they will be entrepreneurs. If they're teaching you AI, they will be working in AI. If they're teaching you whatever they're teaching you, they have to be successful people in their business. So we have now 3,000 students. We have, this is obviously our second campus. I have to, because you're going to say, what advice did you take from your mentor? And definitely we started in a very small campus and we grew when we were already 3,000 students. We have 360 professors from 39 nationalities. They all work in their fields and they give us part-time to be professors. So you will always be taught by professors that work in their fields successfully. And we decided, I'm very, very, I believe in that we have to do something literally in climate change. We cannot be just sitting and looking at the planet being destroyed. So I said, if I'm going to start a university, I'm going to do a LEED Platinum, all campus certified. And, there has not been in the world a campus that has been LEED Platinum certified in each of the campuses. So we did that. This was 14 years ago. And we were the only one in the world that had all the campuses LEED certified. And, it wasn't easy to tell all the students that they could not smoke anywhere near the building, not even in the gardens, anywhere in the building. So, we definitely did something that changed the way education was being taught. We were very happy to do so. And so that was the first time that I decided, that I realized I was literally making a change and leaving a legacy. Because, buildings are amazing. I mean, I've done 600 real estate projects. In my real estate business, which is still running, I have already, 450 employees. We do a lot of things, but we're not living legacies. I mean, we're living brick and mortars, which is great. We're giving a lot of jobs to a lot of people. But to me, education, as I said, it's definitely education. And having said that, you know, every time with the C200, one of the things that it was my task to do was going to different universities in the world to speak with women MBA and women PhD at the top universities in the world. And every time I went to speak to these women, you know, we were talking, like 15 of us, we were talking about different things. We were talking about us women, not about our businesses or what we had accomplished. We were just talking as mentors of the complications we've had in our lives, challenges, about our families. And many of us, like 85% of us, had families. So, you know, as far as women, you know, the pyramid, more women graduate than men in undergraduate, but then the pyramid starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller because they leave the workforce when they become mothers, especially. And so we were trying to be mentors to these women. But if you can move the presentation. I had also, at that time, I was invited to be the representative of Mexico in front of the G20 at the W20 initiative. And the more I talked to every W20 member, every G20 member, I realized that the inequality is not a monopoly of Mexico or a monopoly of the third world countries. Inequality is in every single country of the world. And we have to do something, and something it has to do now. I mean, we have to do now, and it has to do, you know, with not only because it's the right thing to do, because it's you know, it's definitely the thing to do for the countries, for the GDP of the world, and for the companies, as far as making more profits, being more respected, having better reputation. So I said, you know, now is the time for me to continue my education project, but now we have to do something for women. Because as I said before, every time I talked to women in these universities, in these amazing universities that I went, and as I said, I was talking to PhD women at MIT, MBA women at Stanford, you know, PhD women at Harvard. And yet every time I talked, I saw these women not raising their hand, not speaking up, feeling insecure. And I said, my God, I mean, what do they need? They don't need more academic skills. They already own probably $500,000 in tuition. What are they missing? And I felt at the time that I was literally giving a recipe where no ingredients were to be found. You know, so I said, you know, this is really something that is not working here. So I said, something has to be done. So next. After being part of the G20, W20 initiative, another initiative was created. This time, it was an initiative proposed by Canada, accepted by Japan, and it's called Empower. This is an initiative that every country appoints one CEO of the country, private from the private sector, and it's to literally raise the, you know, the advancement of women in the private sector in senior levels. So what it says is that for the first time, the G20 sees the private sector as the motor to increase the GDP of the country in women. Before, you know, it was all government and literally not private sector. And now they see women, that we are able to move the needle to increase the GDP of the countries. So I am the CEO representing Mexico in this movement, in this initiative. So that gave me the power to be able to do something internationally to put the women where they should have been all this time. Next. I want to talk about this, that is very important, because people talk about empowerment and people come to me sometimes and say, Gina, I need you to empower me. Nobody empowers anybody. Nobody empowers anybody. The power is within us, and we own that power. And that's something that I always tell everybody. And to me, the more I think about it and the more I have studied this, the lack of power in women, in my opinion, and maybe the doctor here is going to tell me I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel. The lack of power in women comes a lot from education and culture. You know, we as parents tend to educate different girls and boys. And here I'm going to tell you what I have found. Next. Here are two twins born from the same mother, the same genetic structure, the same day, the same hospital. What happens the day they leave the hospital? Education. I'm not talking that is 100% of the times, but I mean, some of the parents go this road. They buy a tea set for the little girl, a princess suit, the Barbie, and you know, what happens next? Let's take a selfie and let's look like a Barbie, and let's wait for the king to come and save us, right? Okay, now let's go to the boy. Lego, robotics, astronauts, chemistry, and the king. How do you think these kids are going to grow? So nobody came and took this power away from the girl. Nobody took the power away from the girl. The power is there. So and that was my new education project, we work on showing the girls and the women that the power is there. So they have to own this power and live with that power and do whatever they want with that power. Next. This slide is very important. Power doesn't mean dominance. To me, power means equality, and power means the power to decide whatever you want to do in life. Because we don't want to build, you know, or make or encourage to be the CEO of your company. We want to let you decide whatever you want to do in life. If you want to be an astronaut, if you want to be a CEO, if you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a housewife, it's your choice, nobody else's choice. It's not your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, or your boyfriend. It is your own decision. The same as men, it's your own decision to do whatever you do in life. And the day of your 60th birthday or 70th birthday, you will be extremely satisfied with whatever you did in life because you decided whatever you did in life. Next. This is equality, okay? This is it. We are the same in whatever we decided to do. You know, we are so different that we complement each other extremely well. We're never going to be the same. We don't want to be the same, but we can literally do extremely well working together. That is when I created Dalia, my new project, Dalia Empower. Why Dalia? And I'll tell you why Dalia. Next. In Dalia Empower, we're propelling the world forward through lifelong education project, and we build a strong community of women. Next. How do we do this? You know, I am convinced since I created Dalia, I started Dalia 5 years ago. We opened maybe 4 years ago, and then, you know, COVID hit it 3.5 years ago, but we still work through COVID, through the digital transformation and through building the programs. You can never find in Dalia hard skills, because I was convinced that what women needed since those days that I went to speak with a PhD and master degrees, MBA women, they don't need academics. They had 100 times more academic skills than me. But soft skills is what they needed to believe in themselves. And it's interesting because after saying that the only thing that you will find in Dalia are soft skills, we never call it soft skills at Dalia. We call it life skills. The person that named these skills soft, I think they did a terrible mistake, because to me, they have nothing of soft, and I will tell you why. According to, this is just 8 months ago, according to the World Economic Forum, McKinsey, and LinkedIn Global Talent Study, in the next 5 years, the development of the following skills will be essential. This is for men and women, not only to be competitive, but also to be able to stand out under the new labor dynamic that the world is facing. These are the skills. Conflict resolution, it's a soft skills. Emotional intelligence, soft. User experience, hard. Service attitude, soft. Analysis and understanding systems, hard. Negotiation and inspiration, soft. Communication, soft. Time management, soft. Professional relationships, soft. Professional ethics, soft. Agile decision-making, soft. Strategy oriented to goals, soft. Troubleshooting, soft. Logical and critical thinking, hard. Creativity and innovation, soft. Leadership and automation, soft. Teamwork, soft. Use and development of technology, hard. Digital integration, hard. And adaptability to changes, soft. What shows you here is that from the 20 skills needed, 15 are soft. Next. These are the skills that Dalia teaches for women to become masters in life skills. The minute you master these life skills, nobody will stop you. And I promise you this, nobody will stop you. And let me tell you something. One of our board members, Adalia, is the CEO, the president of Hydric and Struggle, a headhunter. He was telling me that if a search fails in a leadership position, it will never fail because of the hard skills. Why? Because the hard skills were already definitely checked before they placed this person in this company. Because obviously they said, okay, Mary had studied in this university, in this whatever, in this master's, she did this, she did this, she did this, she worked here, she worked there. Everything check the box, check the box, check the box. What they didn't know is that Mary didn't have empathy, that Mary didn't have listening skills, that Mary didn't have, team management or empathy or innovation or leadership, or she didn't conflict resolution abilities. So what happened? She didn't fit. And then another thing happened. These skills will not going to be taken by robotics or by AI. That's another incredible thing that will happen if you master these life skills. Next. Then I'm going to tell you the 5 points that helped me in my professional life, that it might help you as well. First, the importance of professional networking. Networking is extremely important for men and women, but men are easier to network than women. Women don't know how to do professional network. They go out and they start speaking about their problems. Men go out and they ask for help in their professional life. So we have to work on teaching women how to do professional networking. Next. 80% of the board positions and leadership positions come from recommendation. They don't come from a headhunter. So nobody will recommend you if you don't ask for help. I've heard 100 times, let my job do the talking on female people. The job never talks. You have to do the talking. So that's something that something that helped me a lot. I have to do the talking. You have to do the talking. Next. Get rid of stereotypes. We women, more in Latin American countries, but believe me, if you don't get married by 32, 34, they start introducing to all of these weird people that they want you to marry. Then if you're not pregnant by 40, they start giving you all of these in vitro solutions or, whatever. Maybe you don't want a child. I mean, it's okay not to have children if you don't want children. So don't buy the stereotyping that they want to put. They don't stick the labels. Forget about having the figure of a Barbie. Doesn't even exist. So forget about having the figure of the Barbie. The body is the less important thing in your life to be a power woman. So forget about the way you look. Then next, if you don't get rid of stereotypes, this is going to be the way you're going to look in your life. This is what you're going to be carrying all your life. So get rid of stereotypes. I always say, since I'm a designer, I always imagining things. So I imagine myself taking a bath in olive oil every morning. So everything sleeps, nothing sticks. So do that, imagining you taking a bath in olive oil, and nothing bad sticks in you. So that has helped me a lot. Next. Don't blame yourself. This is very important. We tend to blame about everything, especially about abandoning the kids if you have children. I have 5 children. I've never blamed myself. And I know that every time a working mother leaves to work, you're teaching your child what to expect from the future relationship. I know that if you have girls, they're going to be looking not for a husband, they're looking for a partner in life, which is what we need if we want to. You may not want to have a partner in life, which is okay not to have a partner in life. But if you want somebody, get a partner in life, female or male. Don't get just a husband or a wife. Get a partner in life that helps you, that wants your growth, and you want his growth or her growth, that wants to, that admires you, that you admire him. So all of these things, they are partners in life. So don't blame yourself. Next. It's okay not to be okay. Now, especially now, don't feel bad if you don't feel well. It's okay to ask for help. With the mental health, with everything that is happening with COVID, mental health is important. So it's okay not to be okay. For men, especially, this is more for men than for women. Men feel like weak, like less masculine. Please ask for help. It's very important to say, I am not feeling well. I'm not feeling okay. And I always say, if you want to cry, every tear is a Tylenol for a headache. So it's okay to cry. It's okay to not feel okay. And the only way to avoid, burnout is if you understand burnout and you understand that you have to avoid it. Next. This is the life of a working mother. So start taking Post-its out of your wheel and start thinking in yourself, because if not, you're going to look like the last slide of the girl with the ponytail. You don't want to look like that. So you have to avoid burnout. Next. See what helps you. See what helps you. Look at what helps you. Meditate. Take time for yourself. Everybody has a few minutes a day. And this is the way you have to, especially now with all of this excess of technology around us. We are not only human beings. We have to be more human. And that is something that we definitely need to accomplish. Next. And never give up. Never give up. Remember that Coca-Cola only sold 25 bottles in the first year. Imagine if Coca-Cola would have gave up. And last slide. We can do it. So thank you so much. Patty, thank you. These are my social media if you want to follow me. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I think we're going to be sorry for the technology in the beginning. And I think we have a few Q&A moments.
Thank you very, very much, Gina Diez Barroso, for a fascinating life history and all of your accomplishments. Your concept for creating your Centro University was just fantastic. And I completely agree with you about that not only inequality is everywhere, but that we need to empower women to be able to create a much better world for our future generations. And now we will turn to Susie Halleck, who will ask you the questions that came in from our students in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. Over to you, Susie.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the excellent presentation. The first few questions are many related to International Women's Day. So first, how do you think women's lives have changed over the past 50 years? For example, what changes happened in women's lives when they received the right to study? And do you think women have been successful in fighting for their rights?
Well, I think, I think like it has changed not at the pace that we would like, but I think it has changed. But also when you see those women 50 years ago, you realize that the only way that it has changed now is because they literally spoke up. They literally, did something amazing then to be able for us to be the way we are now. So I always say that it has changed, yes, but we have to raise our voice. The only change that I see now is that we are being listened, because always we have had these women, these amazing women raising their voice, but nobody listened then. I think that now, the good thing now is that we are being listened. So we literally have to raise the voice. Definitely, we have to raise more awareness. We have to be active in what we are doing, and we cannot be quiet. We definitely have to raise our voices, and we are very slow in the change. When you see, still, the big corporations, when the typical answer that there's no women for the position. I mean, what are they talking about? What do you mean there's no women? We're more women than men, So I definitely think that we have to continue fighting. Don't take no for an answer. I mean, go for it, definitely. Don't let your job do the speaking or the talking. If you work on wherever part of the world you are, definitely we have to do the talking.
Thank you. And in your experience, how has the education of women in Mexico changed since you were a teenager until today?
I think it has changed a lot, but I think the main challenge is to educate the parents, because I think the most important thing is that they all say that they give wings to fly to the daughters, but every night they cut those wings. And one of the stories that I always tell the parents is that in one of the G20 meetings, I was speaking to Malala and Malala's father. And my husband said, I have to speak to the father of Malala, because a father that after having a daughter being shot in the head continues to encourage her to do whatever she wanted, in the sense of education. And as he was speaking to the father, I went to speak to Malala. They were very close together. And Malala said, my father gave me wings to fly, and now he's the wind that blows behind my wings. So I think that in the case of Mexico and Latin America, the girls, the good thing about the education is that they are doing more things. They're being engineers. They're working in STEM. They're doing a lot of things. But the problem is that after they graduate, we need to work with the parents and with the educators to be able to encourage them to continue with their dreams. Because it's not only to be graduated. What next? Where are you going next? So I think that is the challenge that we need to work with. And another thing that we're working, for example, with the girls in STEM, is that you don't want to build gigs that are behind a curtain with earphones, not talking to anybody, coding. You want to build power girls that happen to be extraordinary coders. So that's where the life skills come into the girls who code or into the girls in STEM. Imagine to have an extraordinary girl in tech that happened to be a master in life skills. Then she would definitely be a rounded girl that would definitely change the world.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. What does International Women's Day mean to you, and how do you feel about it?
I have mixed feelings, and let me tell you why. We should have 365 days of International Women's Day. I think that it's a day to probably I don't know if it's a day to what? I mean, to do what? I mean, when they tell me what is today, it's a day like every other day should be. You know, this is a day to honor women, but we should honor women every single day of the year because we struggle every single day of the year. Of course, it's a year that actually it's a year for men to understand what we're doing, but we do it 365 days a year. So I don't know about this day. You know, I have a little bit of a mixed feelings because I mean, it's Christmas. What is Christmas for you? It's one day, right? I mean, what is you know, the Independence Day is one day. Women, are you kidding me? I mean, we struggle the 15th of January, the 28th of February, the 31st of December. We struggle every single day of our lives. So we have to honor women every single day of our lives. So that's my mixed feelings of today, you know.
Thank you. The other day, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that gender equality has been delayed for 300 years. Do you agree with this statement? And if so, why?
Well, I mean, I don't definitely agree on that. I think it's a little bit tough on that, but I do think that it's delayed and that we have to do something, and something means now. And something means now, definitely. And the problem is that a lot of people think that it's because it's only like the right thing to do it. And I think that one of the main things that we have to change the narrative. This is not giving women a chance. This is not about giving women a chance. For example, I come from the private sector, so I understand much more the private sector. And in the private sector, I always tell the companies or any place I go, this is not about giving us a chance. How much money do you want to lose every month for not having women in leadership positions? How many more researchers you want if you don't believe in McKinsey, in Bain, in Harvard Review, in Boston Consulting? Who do you believe in? I mean, what data do you want? So as women, we have to change in public and private sector, change the narrative of what we bring to the table if you reach equality. What do you bring to the table? I mean, you bring GDP, you bring everything better for everywhere. For example, I was talking yesterday because there was as you know, I'm on the board of the stock exchange. There was this person there that all he does is, you know, it's for the climate change, and he does a lot of PET recycling. And he was telling me that 80% of the PET recyclers are women. So it's, you know, it's not even in the business, it's in the saving the planet, it's everywhere. And you know that 80% of the money you pay to a woman in the private sector, 80% goes to their families and to their community. 80%, not men. So it's equality is in everybody's interest. So I think we have to change the narrative all over, and we're not doing that.
Could you please describe a successful, educated woman of the 21st century in a few words?
First, a power woman, I think, and second, a rounded power woman, and somebody that has the ability to be committed and to change the world. Because one of the things that I think now, you cannot just think in yourself. I always say that a successful woman now has the obligation to bring more women into the pipeline, and the obligation to change the life of the less fortunate. It's not an option. I mean, you have, every time I am in the graduation of a CENTRO, in any of the graduations of students every year, I always tell them, now you're graduated, you have your whatever, you know, the graduation speech and the keynote speaker. Or when I go at the end, I always tell them, you have an obligation. Choose which of the three things you're going to work on. Obligation with gender equality, with the planet, to save the planet, or to end extreme poverty. This is not If you want to, maybe, I mean, I don't know if you, this is an obligation. Choose the one and dedicate part of your time and your money to the one you're going to do. And whenever you decide, come to CENTRO and report your KPIs. Because I mean, there's no way you're not going to do it. So this is a successful woman has the obligation to do that. If you're just a very rich woman that happened to be in 20 boards and I mean, what have you done? What else have you done? So I think that you have to change it, that, you know, to think about that as well.
You know what portion of women in the world still suffer from domestic violence, including being denied an education?
Oh, and I don't know the percentage in the world, but I tell you that in Mexico, I have my foundation that I started in 1990. You have no idea. I mean, it's and something interesting that we have to be, you know, we're not talking about that people suffer domestic violence because they are extremely poor or in, let's say, extreme poverty or very badly educated. Domestic violence is in every member of society. I mean, you can suffer from domestic violence even if you are in extremely good position financially, or in a very, you know, super poverty position, extreme poverty. You know, the people that attack women or that go to do any kind of violent act to women, they don't care. And let me tell you something else. And here's the doctor that, you know, psychiatrist that can tell me. The more they do something to women, if they're very powerful, they even feel more powerful if they attack a powerful woman. So in my C200 group, we talked about it once. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. There were a few women that raised their hands. And you're talking about women that probably run companies over $5, $6, $7 billion. And they raised their hand that they had been victims of domestic violence. So, and when the COVID hit, in my foundation, we have high security hospices where we receive women and children together. They live with us 3 months. We help them. We evaluate medical, legal. You know, we give them a place to live in, you know, secured. We show them what to do. And at the end of the 3 months, we find them a place to live and sometimes a new identity. And then we have external help. In 1 or 2, 3 years, if they feel they can be victims again, they can go with or without their partners, like Alcoholics Anonymous, to be helped again. So during COVID, it escalated exponentially, you know, the domestic violence.
Thank you for sharing. What do you think are the greatest barriers women face when working their way up within an organization today? And have you experienced those inequalities in your own life?
Yes, definitely. I think that, you know, for example, one of the things that if the CEO is not committed, if the high positions are not committed to helping the women grow, it will never happen. Stereotypes also, unconscious bias also. You know, if you don't know how to negotiate and you enter with less salary, but you know, those barriers, you have to overcome those barriers, fight for them, and, you know, and try to definitely enter into a company that has gender and diversity policies in place. Because nowadays, there are measures on companies to do gender and diversity policies. And if a company doesn't have it, they're not going to only lose customers, they're going to lose reputation. Nobody's going to want to work in those companies. So those are the main barriers. You know, it's unconscious bias. The CEO on the C-suites are not compromised with gender. And definitely, you know, bad negotiations where you get in.
Are there ways that we can help diminish stereotypes about women not being qualified for board and leadership positions?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are in the case of Dalia, we are creating an index because Bloomberg has an index, but the index of Bloomberg, it's over companies that revenue $1 billion that aren't very many in our countries, especially in our country. And we created in Dalia an index of gender and diversity conscious company for SMEs. So any size of company can be with gender and diversity index. So, I mean, definitely if the women, I mean, companies have to measure themselves to enter into the index, to understand anybody that wants to go into a company, to say, what is your, I mean, are you in the index? I mean, what do you think about gender and diversity? And we as Dalia and as companies, we have to understand that they have to be measured. So I think that's one of the things that we are fighting for with Congress, with everybody, to literally be an obligation for companies with a stock. I'm fighting it with the stock exchange, that they have to, it's to force them to be literally certified as gender and diversity conscious company to help women raise the corporate ladder.
And how do you think societies react to the fact that women can potentially earn more than men?
I think there's always going to be, as I say, haters here. But, also, I think that there's a lot of men that want to help. But we don't, I see this as an orchestra, This is an orchestra. And let's see that if you are going to see the Berlin Philharmonic and there's no violins playing, it's never going to be well played. So men want to play in the orchestra. We have to show them what instrument they should play. We have to bring men to the table in the good way. Dalia is super inclusive to men. When we go to companies to teach them the life skills that we teach them, we include men into the table. We teach men. We have a course called The New Masculinities. We teach them how to be mentors of women. We teach cross-mentoring. We teach them how to make your women in your organization grow. The only way for this to change is if we include men into the table. And if, there's a lot of men that are very happy that to have a boss being a woman. If women make more money than men and they are included in all of this effort, they feel fine. The problem is that if they feel that they're excluded, they're going to become haters in the movement. So we have to include them and to show them what instrument are they playing in this orchestra.
What challenges have you faced when founding your own businesses and educational programs?
If they're self-employed, you mean if they who do a startup or something, or what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel that there's now a lot of funds, a lot of VCs, that they have this mandate not to invest in companies that they don't have a woman in their founding member. So I think that is changing. And also another good thing that a lot of companies are investing only in impact investing, which that's wonderful for the United Nations also. We have to do impact investing, and we have to teach also that impact investing doesn't mean philanthropy, because people confuse impact investing with philanthropy. Impact investing is as profitable as any other non-impact investing. It's just that you're doing an impact to the world, either in climate change or in agriculture or in women or in children or in whatever. But it's as profitable as any other company. It's not philanthropy, it's impact. And there's a lot of VCs and a lot of investors. In the case of my own family office, I don't invest in anything that is not doing an impact, because I believe that people need to do impact in the world. So I think that women being investors, the problem comes again because, because women don't believe in themselves. You should see how they pitch, or the companies they create. They create tiny little companies and they pitch already, really pretty bad. They don't teach them how to pitch like if they're winners, they pitch as losers. So we have to teach them how to pitch like men. If men have two in their companies, they pitch like if they were Jeff Bezos. They pitch like humongous. And women go in and they have an amazing project and they pitch like if they were going to fail already. It's incredible. If you put a position with 10 requirements and a woman has 5 of those 10 or 6, she doesn't go in. She doesn't apply. If a man has 3 of those 10, he goes in. And he says, I will learn the rest. If the woman doesn't have 10 out of 10, she does not apply.
What's one of the biggest lessons you learned during your career?
That it's okay to fail. That it's okay to fail. You know, the worst thing is to say, I give up. You know, failing is normal. Anybody that has not failed has never done anything in her life. You know, failing is normal. I have failed so many times, but stand up and, you know, just obviously analyze your failure, because then you will say, okay, I did this wrong, I'll never happen again. But I going to start again, maybe with the same thing, maybe with another thing. Failing is okay.
One of the major geopolitical factors for companies and global governments to consider in 2023 is that most of Latin America's largest economies will be governed by left-leaning presidents. This was cited from a World Economic Forum report. And because these countries are key producers of agricultural commodities, green minerals, and their policies may affect global market dynamics. Do you have any perspectives on how this dynamic may shape global businesses and social programs this year?
I think it's a very difficult year. It's going to be very difficult obviously for the geopolitical, for the problem that is happening, you know, with Ukraine, that it's super sad, you know, very, very sad. And also, you know, the climate change, you know, people that don't want to see it, they're completely blind. And so many things that are happening with the governments. But you know what happens also? I am so convinced that conflicts bring opportunities. So I think that we should never get away from conflicts. We should face conflicts and see what opportunities come from conflicts. For example, in the case of Mexico, with the problems with China, nearshoring for Mexico is an amazing opportunity with the United States. You know, we're, for example, in the case of Monterrey, Mexico, it's a state, we're opening 2.5 companies a week, with or without the government, in spite of, if you want to, you know, it's a private sector. It's a private sector, definitely. So I do think that we have to understand what is needed in this conflict situation, because definitely it's a conflict situation. So conflict brings opportunity. We have to understand that and go forward.
Thank you. And you were talking a bit about how we sometimes separate people who leverage one side of their brain versus the other. So how do you think we can encourage us to kind of bring creative thinkers and scientific and analytical thinkers together?
Well, I think that we have to understand, I mean, I think if you are an analytic, mathematical engineering, you have to literally try to work on your right side of the brain and vice versa. You yourself have to work, because even if you put these two people together, they won't understand each other. They won't understand each other. You as a person need to work on your other side of the brain. At some point, train yourself in something, you know, even if you're not never going to master that side of the brain, but you have to understand in order to understand those people. Because I think now, when you talk about diversity on boards and diversity on companies, I'm not only talking about gender. Diversity means age, race, ways of thinking, training, everything, you know, everything. That becomes a successful project when you really have every single thinker on that table, not only men and women. More if you have, you know, 20 men dressed the same with an Hermes tie, that's really offensive. But I mean, even if you have men and women, where are the different thinkers? You need to have somebody, you know, completely, maybe a songwriter, you know, maybe an artist, and then, you know, somebody in chemistry, somebody that is a, you know, a completely different person that, you know, I don't know, you know, a tattoo artist. I don't know who, somebody that thinks completely different than a business person, an engineer. That is diversity.
So do you mind speaking a bit about how sometimes people have a negative connotation with bureaucracy, as you mentioned in your presentation. How do you think we can foster having everyone's voices be heard and understanding it's okay to disagree, but also being strategic, innovative, and efficient within our organization?
You know, I think the problem with a very, very bureaucratic organization is that it never gets things done. You know, it's always, you need to go to board 1, board 2, papers go, papers come. But I mean, we need to say, this needs to be done in this amount of time. Yes or no? But if you don't do that, then innovation just doesn't become innovation anymore, because it's already like 6 months went by and we didn't do it. So I do think that we need to get, you know, I don't know, maybe in big organizations it's impossible, you know, but I do think that we need to have like the time frame and literally say this needs to be done in a month. And if it doesn't happen in a month, it didn't happen. But I do think that we need to break that mold of bureaucracy. Because if not, we're definitely never going to have it, you know. Innovation now, especially now, is the key of all companies. Look at the companies that have died. Kodak is a perfect example versus Fuji. Fuji innovated. Fuji changed from cameras and things that were completely dead to hospitals, machines, you know, CAT scans, all of the things that respirators, you know, ventilators. Where's Kodak? Kodak died. An amazing company. You know, you have to innovate immediately.
Thank you. Our last question is, you've accomplished so many great things and have founded so many impactful businesses for society. Do you have any projects that you're looking to do or goals that you have for the future?
Well, my goal and my probably 70% of my time is women now, women and girls, and I want to grow Dahlia as much as I can. My goal is to impact 25 million women directly and 100 million indirectly in the whole world. So that's my goal.
Well, thank you very, very much for a very fascinating and interesting presentation. And I guess the best we can summarize it is that we need to change the narrative about women in order to change the world. So thank you again, and we wish you a very, very wonderful week and all the success in your future endeavors. Susie, thank you very much for moderating, and have a very good week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.